He announced you need to move out this weekend. Leo's moving in and this is my apartment now. Throwing the spare key at my chest. I picked up the key, smiled, and said, "You are absolutely right. Sophia, it is your apartment." She discovered what that really meant when the leasing office handed her a modification agreement making her solely responsible for $4,500 monthly rent on an income that barely covered $1,500. I am not a vindictive person. I am a commercial real estate analyst. My world revolves around lease agreements, liability transfers, and the cold mathematical reality of property law. I believe in contracts. I believe in due diligence. And I believe that when you sign your name to a legal document, you own every consequence that comes with it. For 2 years, I thought Sophia and I were building equity together. I see now that I was just the one paying the mortgage, while she was planning to foreclose on our entire relationship. This isn't a story about heartbreak. This is a story about a property transfer that went exactly according to the terms and conditions. It all started the way these things usually do, with someone not reading the fine print. When Sophia and I moved into the luxury apartment in downtown, she was dazzled by the marble countertops, the floor-to-ceiling windows, and the rooftop pool. What she wasn't interested in was the $4,500 monthly rent, which she considered Ethan's department since I made 3 times her marketing coordinator salary. "I will handle the decorating, and you handle the boring money stuff," she said. Already planning where to put her Pinterest. Inspired furniture. That is what couples do. They play to their strengths. My strength, apparently, was being the sole financial provider, while her strength was spending money we hadn't budgeted and criticizing my lack of vision for our future. The apartment lease was structured as a standard joint tenancy. Both our names were on the contract, making us equally liable for the full amount. In property law, this is called joint and several liability if one tenant disappears. The other is responsible for 100% of the obligation. It is a landlord's best friend and a tenant's biggest risk. I explained this to Sophia when we signed, but she waved it off. "Stop being so paranoid. Ethan, we are not going anywhere." She was half right. The first red flag appeared 6 months into our lease. Sophia's cousin Leo started showing up at our apartment. A lot. Leo was one of those perpetually unemployed creative types who considered having a trust fund a personality trait. He had never worked a real job in his life, but he always had opinions about everyone else's career choices. "Ethan's got no vision," he would tell Sophia while eating our groceries and using our Netflix. "Look at this place. You are living like some suburban accountant when you could be building something exciting." Sophia would nod along, her eyes lighting up like Leo was sharing the secrets of the universe, instead of recycling Instagram entrepreneur quotes. "Leo thinks I am wasting my potential in marketing," she told me one evening. "He says I could be running my own lifestyle brand by now if I wasn't being held back by someone else's small-town mentality." Someone else. After 18 months of paying for her designer coffee habit and boutique gym membership, I had been reclassified as someone else. The second red flag was Leo's overnight stays. First, it was crashing on our couch after a late-night brainstorming session. Then it was full weekends while his apartment was being fumigated. Soon, he had a drawer in our bathroom and his oat milk in our refrigerator. "Leo's going through a transitional period," Sophia explained. "His trust fund is being restructured, and he needs a stable environment to focus on his art." His art, as far as I could tell, consisted of taking shirtless selfies and posting motivational quotes about disrupting the status quo. The third red flag was the way Sophia had started talking about our apartment as if I was the tenant and she was the landlord. She rearranged the furniture without asking. She invited people over without checking with me. She gave Leo a key for emergencies. When I objected, she framed it as a character flaw. "You are being controlling, Ethan. This is supposed to be our home, not your personal office." Leo understands creative energy. You just want everything to be predictable and boring. The fourth red flag was the night I came home from a client dinner and found Sophia and Leo in our bed. They weren't sleeping. I stood in the doorway for about 10 seconds, watching my girlfriend of 2 years entangled with her trust fund cousin on sheets I had paid for, in an apartment I was financing, on a mattress I had bought. Leo saw me first. Instead of panic or shame, his face broke into a smug grin. "Oh, hey Ethan, we were working on some creative projects. Sophia sat up, not bothering to cover herself. No apology, no explanation, no embarrassment. Just annoyance. "We need to talk," she said, as if I had interrupted a business meeting. The conversation that followed was a masterclass in gaslighting. I wasn't seeing what I thought I was seeing. Sophia and Leo had been collaborating on her lifestyle brand. They were exploring creative synergies, and if I was too small-minded to understand the difference between intellectual intimacy and physical betrayal, then maybe I wasn't the right partner for someone with her level of ambition. "Leo gets me," she said, wrapping our bedsheet around herself like a toga. "He sees my potential. He understands that I am destined for bigger things than being some corporate guy's girlfriend." I looked at Leo, who was sprawled across my side of the bed like he owned it. Then I looked at Sophia, who was talking about her potential while sitting naked in the apartment I paid for, surrounded by furniture I had bought, planning a future with a man whose greatest achievement was being born into money. I didn't feel anger. I felt clarity. Crystal clear. Forensic, quality clarity. "I understand," I said. And I did. I understood that she had just breached our relationship contract in a way that voided all my obligations. I understood that Leo was a liability she was choosing to assume. And I understood exactly how to restructure this arrangement to reflect the new reality. Over the next week, I did what I do best. I reviewed the fine print. Our lease agreement, like most luxury rentals, had specific clauses about modifications, transfers, and early termination. What most tenants don't realize is that these clauses are often negotiable, especially when you are dealing with a property management company that wants to minimize their risk. I made an appointment with our leasing agent, Marcus, a sharp guy in his 30s who ran the building like a Fortune 500 operation. I had always made our rent payments early and in full, which in the property management world makes you the equivalent of a 5-star credit rating. "Ethan," Marcus said, shaking my hand in his immaculate office. "Good to see you. How is apartment 2847 treating you?" "Actually, that is what I wanted to discuss," I said, placing a folder on his desk. "I am anticipating some changes to my living situation, and I want to make sure we handle them properly." I explained that my girlfriend and I were likely separating, and that I wanted to explore options for removing myself from the lease agreement without creating complications for either the property or the remaining tenant. Marcus nodded. This wasn't his first breakup. Related lease consultation. Normally, we had require both tenants to sign off on any modifications, he said. But if one tenant wants to voluntarily remove themselves and the remaining tenant can demonstrate financial capability for the full rent, that is where it gets interesting, I said, opening my folder. I would like to propose something a little different. What I proposed was this. I would pay my portion of the remaining lease term in advance 6 months at $2,250 per month, totaling $13,500. In exchange, the property management company would immediately remove my name from the lease and transfer 100% of the ongoing liability to Sophia. From Marcus's perspective, this was the deal of the century. Instead of risking 2 people who might skip out on rent, he was getting a guaranteed $13,500 payment up front and securing a lease modification that would make collection easier if problems arose. You are essentially buying yourself out of the lease, Marcus said, reviewing my proposal. And your girlfriend would become the sole tenant with full responsibility for the monthly payments going forward. Exactly, I said. She has been making it very clear that this is her apartment and her life. I think it is time the lease agreement reflected that reality. Marcus smiled. In the property management business, this kind of clean separation is rare. Usually, breakups mean missed payments, disputes, and legal headaches. I was offering him a solution that eliminated all of those problems. I will need your girlfriend to sign off on accepting sole tenancy, he said. She will, I replied. She has been wanting full control of the apartment for months. That afternoon, I presented the modification to Sophia as a generous gesture. Leo was sprawled on our couch, scrolling through his phone and eating cereal from one of my bowls. I have been thinking about our conversation, I told Sophia. You are right. This apartment should be yours. I talked to the leasing office, and they are willing to transfer the lease entirely to your name. You will have complete control. Sophia's eyes lit up. This was exactly what she wanted: the apartment, the independence, and the freedom to live her life without my suburban mentality holding her back. "Really?" she asked. "You would do that for me?" "Of course," I said. "I just need you to sign some paperwork at the leasing office." Leo looked up from his cereal. "See? I told you Ethan would come around. He knows you deserve better." Sophia scheduled the appointment for the following Friday. She wanted to handle it herself, she said. She was ready to take control of her own life. Friday morning, I got a text from Marcus. "Modification complete. Miss Hayes is now sole tenant. Thanks for making this so easy." Friday afternoon, my phone exploded. "What the fuck did you do?" Sophia screamed into the phone. I could hear her crying, her voice shaking with rage and panic. "I did exactly what you asked for," I said calmly. "You said this was your apartment. Now it legally is. The rent is $4,500 a month." She shrieked. "I cannot afford $4,500 a month. I make $1,800. How am I supposed to pay $4,500? "That sounds like a personal budgeting challenge," I replied. "I am sure Leo can help you figure it out." There was a pause, and then Leo's voice came on the phone. "Listen, you psycho," he said, his trust fund arrogance fully deployed. "You cannot just abandon Sophia like this. This is financial abuse. We are going to sue you." "Sue me for what?" I asked. "For fulfilling Sophia's repeated requests to have complete control of the apartment. For paying my share of the lease 6 months in advance. For following through on a legal modification that she voluntarily signed." Another pause. "I have a copy of the lease modification right here," I continued. "Sophia's signature is on page 3, right next to the clause that says, 'Tenant acknowledges sole responsibility for all monthly payments.' She signed it yesterday, in front of a notary." The line went quiet. "Marcus was very thorough," I added. "He made sure Sophia understood that she was accepting full financial liability before she signed," she said, and I quote, "Finally, someone who recognizes that I can handle my own responsibilities." I hung up before they could respond. The next few days were a symphony of panic. Sophia called me 17 times. She sent 43 text messages ranging from tearful apologies to violent threats. She showed up at my office building. Security had to escort her out. Leo, meanwhile, had mysteriously disappeared. The trust fund artist who had been so eager to disrupt the status quo suddenly had urgent business elsewhere when it came time to actually contribute to the monthly rent. The most satisfying moment came on Monday when I got a call from Marcus. "Your ex-girlfriend is here," he said, his voice amused. "She is asking if there is any way to reverse the lease modification. She says she didn't understand what she was signing." "What did you tell her?" I asked. "I told her the truth," Marcus replied. "She signed a legally binding contract in front of a notary. After I explained every clause, there is no reversal process for buyer's remorse." And her response? She is crying in the lobby. Her cousin, the guy with the designer sneakers, is trying to convince her to just break the lease and move in with him. She keeps saying she cannot afford the early termination fee. The early termination fee, according to our original lease agreement, was equal to 3 months of rent. For Sophia, that would be $13,500, exactly the amount I had paid to buy my way out. The irony was perfect. Update 1. The first month, Sophia managed to scrape together the first month's rent by maxing out her credit cards and borrowing money from her parents. She moved Leo in as an unofficial roommate, thinking his trust fund would solve their problems. She was wrong. Leo's restructured trust fund turned out to be his parents cutting him off for dating his cousin and refusing to get a job. Without his monthly allowance, Leo was just another unemployed 28-year-old with expensive taste and no income. The lifestyle brand Sophia had been planning with Leo never materialized. It is hard to build a business empire when you are working 60-hour weeks at 2 different jobs trying to make rent. I learned all of this from Marcus, who kept me updated on the situation with the detached professionalism of someone who had seen this exact scenario play out dozens of times. She has applied for a roommate, he told me during one of our brief conversations, but she cannot find anyone willing to pay $2,250 for a bedroom when they can get their own place for less. Update 2. The cascade effect. By month 3, the dominoes were falling fast. Sophia couldn't make the rent. Leo had moved out after a screaming fight about money that half the building heard. Her parents had refused to help beyond the initial emergency loan. She tried to break the lease, but the early termination fee was more than she could afford. She looked into subletting, but the property management company required any subtenant to qualify financially for the full rent amount, a standard that eliminated 90% of potential candidates. Marcus called me on a Tuesday afternoon. "She is defaulting," he said. "We have started eviction proceedings. She owes 3 months of back rent plus fees. The total is pushing $16,000. "What is her plan?" I asked. "Bankruptcy, probably," Marcus replied. "Her credit is destroyed. She will be lucky to qualify for a studio apartment in the suburbs after this." Update 3. The new normal. 6 months later, I was living in a beautiful 1-bedroom apartment 10 minutes from my office. The monthly rent was $2,100, exactly what I had been paying as my half of the luxury place. But now I had complete control over my living situation. Without the constant financial drain of supporting Sophia's lifestyle, I had been able to save aggressively. I bought new furniture, took a vacation to Italy, and put a substantial down payment on a small investment property. My work performance had improved dramatically without the constant relationship stress. I closed 3 major deals in 4 months and earned a promotion to senior analyst with a $15,000 salary increase. The promotion came with a signing bonus that was almost exactly equal to the $13,500 I had spent to buy my way out of the lease. The return on investment was perfect. Sophia, according to mutual friends, was living with her parents in the suburbs and working at a call center. Leo had moved to Los Angeles to pursue opportunities in content creation. Their lifestyle brand had become a 1-page Instagram account with 12 followers. Final update, the lesson a year later. I ran into Sophia at a coffee shop downtown. She was dressed professionally, a cheap suit that looked like it came from a discount store, and carrying a worn laptop bag. She saw me before I saw her. When I looked up from my phone, she was standing next to my table. "Ethan," she said quietly. "Sophia," I replied. "How are you?" She sat down without being invited. She looked tired, older somehow, like someone who had been forced to grow up quickly. "I know what you did," she said. "The lease thing. I know you planned it." "I did exactly what you asked for," I said. "You wanted control of the apartment. You got it. You knew I couldn't afford it." "You are an adult with a college degree," I replied. "I assumed you could read a lease agreement and understand basic math." She stared at me for a long moment. "I didn't know you could be so cold," she said. "I am not cold," I replied. "I am precise. You made it very clear that you wanted a different life with different priorities. I simply removed myself from the equation so you could pursue that life without interference." She stood up to leave, then paused. "Was it worth it?" she asked. "Destroying my life just to prove a point?" I looked at her, really looked at her. The designer clothes were gone, replaced by off-the-rack business wear. The manicured nails were gone, replaced by hands that looked like they did actual work. The entitled attitude was gone, replaced by something that almost looked like humility. "I didn't destroy your life, Sophia," I said. "I just stopped subsidizing it. Everything that happened after that was a consequence of choices you made." She walked away without another word. That evening, I sat in my apartment, with my name on the lease and my furniture arranged exactly how I liked it, and reflected on the past year. Sophia had been right about one thing. I was building something predictable and boring. A stable career, a comfortable living situation, a life based on clear agreements and mutual respect. She had wanted something exciting and dynamic. A lifestyle brand built on creative energy and trust fund money. A relationship based on passion rather than planning. A life that prioritized feelings over financial reality. She got exactly what she chose, and so did I. The difference was, I had read the fine print before I signed. In real estate, like in life, the details matter. The monthly payment amount, the liability structure, the terms of modification, the consequences of default, these aren't boring technicalities. They are the foundation that determines whether you are building equity or just paying someone else's mortgage. Sophia thought she was living in a romantic comedy where love conquers all and trust funds last forever. She was actually living in a contract negotiation where every clause had consequences and every signature had weight. When she asked me to move out so Leo could move in, she wasn't making an emotional appeal. She was proposing a business restructuring, so I treated it like one. I gave her exactly what she negotiated for: complete control, total responsibility, and all the consequences that came with both. The lease modification wasn't revenge, it was just property law, executed with precision and documented with care. Some people call that cold. I call it professional. Either way, the contract was clear, the terms were met, and the books balanced perfectly.